Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount & Blade Bannerlord, specifically the Realm of Thrones mod, and we're continuing our armor analysis series. This time we're starting off with the Reach. So this is going to be the region of the Tyrells and Old Town with the high towers and, you know, the red wines in the arbor and the Tarleys of Horn Hill, all that sort of stuff. That area in the Song of Ice and Fire world. So like always with this series, what we're going to do is take a look at the troops of this region, and so that'll give you a generic idea of what you're going to see most often in this mod for this region, and then we're going to go look through some of the full suits of armor that belong to this region. So let's just dive on in and start off with the troops. So starting off with the basic Reach troop tree, starting with the Reach recruit, and again for this section with the troops, I'm not going to go super in depth with breaking down each armor item. We're just going to take a look at them all, and I'll make little comments as I feel necessary throughout. But starting off with the Reach recruit, we got nothing special there. Then on to tier 2, we have the Reach bowman over on one side, and that upgrades to the Reach Archer, then the Reach Elite Archer, and finally the Reach Master Archer. On the other side, we have Infantry and Cavalry with the Reach Levy and the Reach Soldier. Then for the Infantry side, we have the Reach Man-at-Arms, and then we have two options with the Reach House Guard or the Reach Axeman. So pretty much everything from tier 2 and down looks really good and fits into the aesthetic of the mod, not using a bunch of vanilla assets. Then for Cavalry, we have Reach Rider and the Reach Horseman for their quote-unquote heavy cavalry unit. So I would say all of these look pretty good. They fit in with the whole Reach vibe, and they look similar enough to each other that if you had a full army of Reach Infantry, Reach Cavalry, and Reach Archers, they all look good enough together that you wouldn't second guess it. They look good and nice and uniform, and I like that. So that is our Reach troop tree. Then we have the Tyrell troop tree. So the Tyrells are the leading family of the Reach. They're the Wardens of the South. So for them, we have the Tyrell Footman, the Tyrell Soldier at tier 3, which is an interesting unit. I like how it's got the Tyrell helmet and then just the gambeson. But then we have three different branches for them. So with the infantry, we have the Tyrell Man-at-Arms and the Tyrell House Guard. Then we have the Tyrell Longbowmen and the Tyrell Elite Longbowmen. Then for cavalry, we have the Tyrell Scout, the Tyrell Horseman, and finally the Tyrell Cavalier. So all of them look pretty good. Once again, I think that a full army of, cavalry, archers, and infantry just from the Tyrell troop tree, again, is going to look pretty dang good together, and I wouldn't have any problems per se with that. And all of them are decent enough units in their own right. So that's the Tyrell troop tree. Then we have the Reach Noble troop tree, which starts with the Reach Noble Son, which isn't anything special. The Reach Vulgaire, which again doesn't look all that special. It is using in-mod assets, but they just aren't all that flashy looking. But once we get to the Reach Hedge Knight, you start seeing how fancy this one looks. So that goes into the Reach Champion, and finally the Reach Flower Knight, being the top tier and a heavy cavalry unit. So that is the Reach Noble troop tree. Then we have the House Tyrell troop tree of Horn Hill. This starts with the House Tyrell Footman, which goes to the House Tyrell Soldier. Then we have three ranges for them, starting with their cavalry, the Tyrell Horseman and the Tyrell Knight. Then we have the House Tyrell Crossbowmen and the House Tyrell Elite Crossbowmen. Then we have the House Tyrell Man-at-Arms, the Tyrell House Guard, and finally their elite troop, the Tyrell Vanguard, which is a heavy infantry unit. I would say all of this armor looks pretty good, especially for their top tier stuff. So the Vanguard, the Crossbowmen, and the Tyrell Knight, those all look really good. They use in-mod assets and I think look great together. So that's the Tyrell troop tree. And lastly, we have the Hightower troop tree, starting with the Hightower Levy, moving into the Hightower Soldier, which already looks pretty well armored. Then we have the Hightower Horsemen and the Hightower Cavalry for their cavalry line, the Crossbowmen and the Hightower Marksmen for their archer slash, in this case, crossbowman line. And then for their infantry, we have the Hightower Guard, the Hightower Captain, and their elite troop, the Guardian of Old Town, which is a very good heavy infantry unit. So that is our Hightower troop tree, which is the last troop tree out of all of the, unique Reach ones. So not a bad variety for troops in the Reach. But that does it for the troops. So let's now take a look at the full suits of armor, and we're going to follow the rules like we always do. For it to be a full suit of armor, it needs to fill all 5 slots, and it needs to look relatively good together, and all of the items have to be taken from this region. So they're either going to be Reach items, Tyrell items, Tarley items, or Hightower items. So they're gonna fit in this region and belong to this region. We're not borrowing from anyone else. So one thing that you'll notice going through all of these is the annoying lack of footwear for this region. All we have, or all I could find, was the Reach plate boots. All of the other troop types use some borrowed item, and I'll show you that now. So you can see for the whole Reach troop tree, we have the Jon Snow boots for the House Guard, the Jon Snow boots for the Axeman, the Jon Snow boots for the Horseman, and the Jon Snow boots for the Master Archer. For the Tyrells, Jon Snow boots for the Cavalier, Jon Snow boots for the longbowmen, and Jon Snow boots for the House Guard. For the Tarleys, we have the Jon Snow boots for the Vanguard, the crossbowmen, and the Knight. So you get where I'm going with this. High Towers, Jon Snow boots. They all use the Jon Snow boots. So that is why we do not have anything other than the Reach plate boots for every single one of these suits of armor, because they all use the Jon Snow boots. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, for this mod, I could understand why they wouldn't just put in a pair of brown boots into the mod and call them Reach boots. They could look exactly the same as the Jon Snow boots, but just be called Reach boots. But following my rules, that means I have to use the Reach plate boots for every single suit of armor in this video, because they're the only boots that belong to the Reach. So this is the basic Reach infantry unit. We have the Reach helmet, the Reach pauldrons, the Reach gambeson, and the Tyrell bracers, and of course the Reach plate boots, which we've already talked about. Other than the fact that the boots don't match with the outfit at all, it looks decent. There's a little bit of clipping with the gambeson coming through the pauldrons, but to be fair, the pauldrons probably aren't intended to go with this gambeson, so that's not all that surprising. Overall, I would say for a infantry unit, it's interesting. Typically, I would say prioritize the gorget over the shoulders, but this is what it is. We only have so many options. So that is our first suit of armor for the Reach. Next one we have is our Tarley basic infantry. This one is made up of the Tarley helmet, the Tarley pauldrons, the Tarley gambeson, the Tyrell bracers, and the Reach plate boots once again. So kind of the same thing as the last one, except this one does a little bit less clipping. Our pauldrons look a little bit funny without having some sort of a gorget in the middle, so that's always a little off-putting, I would say. But other than that, it matches the helmet, the pauldrons, and even though these are Tyrell bracers, they still match relatively well together. And the Tarley gambeson is a decent enough looking piece of armor. It doesn't look bad. The texture all looks solid considering how basic it is. So again, basic suit of armor, interesting looking, kind of weird, but it works. Next, we have a proper suit of Tarley armor. This one is made up of the Tarley helmet, the Tarley pauldrons, the Tarley soldier armor, the Tyrell bracers, and the Reach plate boots. So we don't have any Tarley bracers or gloves, but the Reach ones once again work relatively well just because of how basic they are. And of course the boots are off-putting, but just ignore that for all of these suits of armor because, it is what it is. You can wear your Jon Snow boots if you want, but I'm not going to break my rules. Other than that, I do like this one. I think the Tarley armor is one of the armors that was designed relatively well in the show. It's obviously not a ridiculously comprehensive suit of armor, but for a suit of half plate, it does work very, very well, and it all looks pretty dang good together. So I like the Tarley armor. I think it looks pretty solid. Next up, we have the Reach Soldiers armor. This one is, suitable for cavalry or infantry, heavy infantry that would be. And again, other than the boots, this one all looks pretty dang solid together. So this one's made up of the Reach helmet, the Reach pauldrons, the Reach Soldiers armor, the Tyrell bracers, and the Reach plate boots. So once again, we don't have our unique Reach bracers, and the Tyrell bracers match a little bit less well with this one because you can see we have this patinaed, almost bronze kind of finish to the seal on this suit of armor, but it does look pretty good. And unlike the last one we looked at, even though this doesn't have its standalone gorget in the middle or anything like that, you can tell we're dealing with some sort of a brigandine type armor here, and so the pauldrons do not look out of place with this one as much as they did on the other ones. So overall, I definitely like this one. It is one of my favorite suits of armor that you can get out of the entire Reach arsenal. So that is our Reach soldier armor. Next, we have one suit of armor with two variants, and it makes up the High Tower armor. So this is the High Tower infantry, or like heavy infantry, heavy archer, whatever you want to use it for. The rank and file foot soldier type armor for the High Towers, and it's mostly made up of High Tower items, so that's pretty good. For this, we have the High Tower barbute, the High Tower shoulders, High Tower armor, High Tower bracers, and of course our Reach plate boots, which we're getting a lot of mileage out of in this video. Overall, really like this one. I think the barbute is very basic, but barbutes are one of my favorite style of medieval helmet, so, I automatically give it a pass. If it were me, I'd want the face opening to be a bit narrower, so I have a bit more protection, but can still breathe and see freely. Other than that, I like the suit of armor. I think the High Tower armor looks fairly good, and this is obviously drawn from House of the Dragon, but I think the High Tower armor looked pretty cool in that show, so it's a win for them. So that's the first variant, which I would call, like I said, a very, very heavy archer, or obviously more applicably a heavy infantry unit. Then the only other change is the helmet, and we have their cavalry unit. And to do that, we just equip the High Tower Great Helmet. So same stuff. It's a shame they don't have their own boots because, just a plain silver set of plate boots would look better than these ones with it. But overall, it is a pretty cool looking suit of armor, and I do like how the helmet has the large High Tower, tournament crest on the top of it, on the top of like a great bucket helm. So it looks pretty cool in that regard. So that is our High Tower Knight armor. Next, we have the only truly full suit of armor in this mod, and it is the the Reach Heavy armor. So this one is made up of the Reach Heavy helmet, the Reach Heavy shoulders, Reach Heavy armor, Reach gauntlets, and the Reach plate boots. So you can see it's a very heavily stylized, decorated suit of steel armor with a bunch of gilding all over it. And I love that you can see some mail, and you've got these big blue, I don't know if that would be considered tassets underneath, or just a long gambeson, because you can see it up here too. But whatever the case is, it looks fantastic. And it's, like I said, the only full suit of armor that we have in the entire region, because it's where the boots come from. So overall, this one's very good. Probably the best suit of armor in the entire region, just because, like I said, all 5 pieces belong to this suit. So that's the Reach Heavy armor. Next, we have the Tyrell armor. And now this one I modified a little bit. You can see some clipping by the shoulders, and we'll get to that when we're going through the items, but this would be the stuff that would be applicable for the cavalry and heavy infantry of House Tyrell. So again, this is drawn from the aesthetics of the show, and although it's not actually a full suit of plate armor, it's another suit of half plate, which they really like to use in the Game of Thrones shows, it still does look pretty good in my opinion. Here we have the Tyrell helmet, the House Tyrell armor, the Tyrell bracers, and our Reach plate boots. Typically, this actually doesn't have shoulder armor, because if you take it off, you can see it's got these little integrated pieces with the torso, but like I said, I want to fill that slot. So if you wanted to fill it without any clipping, you would just use some plate armor reinforcements, which is an invisible armor piece in the game, in the mod, that is 4 pieces of armor like this where the shoulders are integrated. But with the introduction of the Tarly armor, the Tarly pauldrons actually match it fairly well. There's a little bit of clipping, but you kind of barely notice it, and then it gives you a much more comprehensive arm armor. So that's why I included them in this one. Even though prescription-wise they don't actually belong with it, I think they look really good with it. So that is our Tyrell heavy plate armor. Next we have our Tarly Lord armor, which is just the heavier variant of the Tarly armor. This is what you'd see Dickon or whatever his dad's name was. I, for some reason, just forgot it. But Sam Tarly's brother and father. This is what they wear in the show, other than the boots, of course. Here, this one is made up of the Tarly helmet, the Tarly pauldrons, the Tarly Lord armor, the Tyrell bracers, and the Reach plate boots. So overall, a very solid looking suit of armor. I love the kind of shiny brown leather underneath it. It's very Hollywood. Not the best for a medieval point of view, but it does look good enough with the medieval fantasy aesthetic that they go for in Game of Thrones. And overall, I think this is a well put together suit of armor, other than the boots, of course. So very cool, but that is the Tarly Lord armor. And lastly, we have the Hightower Lord armor. So this is what would belong to whoever the Lord of the Hightower at the time is. And again, it's one that I quite enjoy. So this one's made up of the Hightower Great Helmet, the Hightower Shoulders, Hightower Lord armor, the Hightower Bracers, and of course our trusty Reach plate boots. So overall, very cool. I love how it's got the green wafen rock over top of our plate armor. You can see that we have, or at least the outlines make it look like there is, a solid set of plate armor underneath that wafen rock. And we have the high-waisted belt pulled up, obviously right below the nipples, essentially. All of the rest of it looks very good together. I, again, love the helmet. Glad we're getting some extra mileage out of that. Only thing that could improve this suit, some leg armor, a little bit of upper thigh leg armor that matches it with some, just plain silver all the way down to the sabatons. It would be very, very cool. But whatever the case is, I do like the Hightower Lord armor, even if we have to use our Reach plate boots. So very cool, and that is the last full suit of armor for the Reach in this mod currently. And so that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a fan of the Reach, hope this satisfies you. I'm assuming, like most of the other underdeveloped regions in this mod, that they're working on it, and eventually we'll round this out even more, maybe adding in a couple more houses with some more unique armor. But whatever the case is, I do like a lot of the stuff that this region has already, and so I think it was pretty dang good. So that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.